Up with still vintages of old Americana, 1940s, 50s, swing music, and the movie Action Heroes came out with Stogies. It was the age of the macho Arnold, Arnold Jordan, Marvin Shaq came out with Cigar Aficionado. That had especially New York, had a great impact, and people were making money, and Wall Street was booming. And you can see in Wall Street, people started to smoke cigars, insurance, sales reps from insurance companies coming in, buying cigars. They wanted to be in the thing. Cigar lounges started opening up. And it was in I think it was 1994, 95, it hit really big. New York was getting a sense of itself. The Yankees had turned the corner, were winning. The Rangers won the Stanley Cup, and the expatriate Cuban cigar makers were putting out great cigars. Camacho, Puro Indios, the manufacturing Padron coming out of Nicaragua. You had Arturo Fuente coming up strong from the Dominican Republic. And then all of a sudden, it's like Larson reappeared, Nording reappeared out of nowhere with their brand of freehand cigars. Then you had the Italian. They were really big. They came out with Grecian Plateau Briars, man, beautiful looking pipes. People were then starting to smoke pipe. And back then you still had tobacconists that knew what they were talking about. The major blends, very nice blends came out, the regular blends. I mean, that's why I love Captain Black so much. I talk about Captain Black because during the hard times, Captain Black was the stalwart. Capstan was a stalwart. Aaron Moore was stalwarts. You know, you had the Dunhill brands, English blends were stalwart. You know, these big companies were still, you can still get a lot of their pipe smoking. Even Middleton, Jerry Middleton. You had a Scandinavian cigar. I can't remember right now. It'll come back to me. But as everything culminated, the media, the age of information hit, cable hit. It was the height of the magazine boom. There were more. You can get more information from magazines than you did from TV. You had hundreds and hundreds of magazines and books, and people were reading. And certain films came out. Wall Street was early 90s was kicking butt. People wanted to smoke. People wanted to celebrate. You had taverns. Guys were dressing sharp. They got a sense of themselves. Like, hey, you know, we're established now. Let me take out some time and smoke me a nice, and then a nice pipe or a nice, you know. They started. Well, what's the best pipe I can smoke? What's the best cigar I can smoke? They didn't just want a cigar. They didn't just want a Dutch Masters or El Producto. They was going after premium cigars, and they wanted to impress other people in their cigar lounges. I went to all the famous cigar lounges in the Noodle Cigar Lounge, the 21, Hyatt Regency had a cigar lounge, Mary Marquis had a cigar lounge. Oh, small cigar lounges opening up everywhere, really nice, catering. Staff knew what they were talking about. They knew their cigars. The mayor was a cigar smoker. And you had the baseball players. Joe Torre was a cigar smoker. Chris Chambliss had his and Joe Torre had their lockers in our store. It was De La Concha. They did a great job promoting, getting out there, And then you had those that had been smoking prior to all that. I would go to the stores and see these younglings coming in trying to buy these expensive pipe, and I would observe the old timers, over 50 years old. Look at them. I go, nah, nah, nah. Don't buy that. Here, buy this right over here. Start with Gray Bowl. Work your way up there. And these guys were like, yeah, I want Caminero. I want Don Carlos. I want the expensive stuff because look at me. I have a sense of myself. So you had that slight division that you had the elitist look, which were the old timers. Now look at these young people. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know how to smoke the pipe. They don't know the history of cigars. We've been smoking cigars. I've been a Yankee fan. I've been a Dodger fan. I remember we used to go to the stadium, smoke, get dressed up, and then you had the new guys with Michael Jordan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and all that. You had my friend Bert Sugar. He always had that cigar in his mouth. Bert Sugar. He was an analyst, boxing analyst. He had his hat. He was old school, but he was also new school. Bert Sugar did a lot of commentating, analyzing boxing and some of the boxing magazines. I got to meet him and become good friends with him. And I would always ask him why you kept a cigar in your mouth and it wasn't lit. Because it's Cuban. But I learned a lot from the old timer, the guy who were the plumbers of a lot of these high-rise buildings, the Pan American building, the United Nations buildings. The plumbers would come in and buy, working class would buy. These guys really knew their briars. The plumbers and the parks and services, janitors that smoked as they worked. They were outdoors. And a lot of the merchant marines that would come in by, and then they would, head on back to their ship and ship out oil tankers. Those are the guys that really knew about cigars. They traveled the world. They stopped off in Europe. They stopped off in France, Barcelona, Cartagena, and were influenced with the finer things in life. When it came to wine, what they drank, they were really exposed. The Hemingways, I call them the Hemingways. And so that was the beginning of the cigar boom. It all came together. You had the old timers that were in their 60s, 70s that had been smoking before the popularity. And they looked down and they go, well, they can smoke all that cheap stuff as long as they don't touch my Aramore, as long as they don't touch my cap stands, And they would get frustrated when they saw their brands go off the shelf. These guys wanted the best. And so they made a big stink on Dunhill pipes, which was like, so? It's not the best pipe in the world, making, a lot of promotional stuff. Dunhill since 19, people wanted old world too. They wanted pipes. Then the estate pipes came around. Guys that were smoking those pipes were dying off. People didn't know what to do with their pipes, relatives, and so they sold pipes, and that's how that got started. People buying pipes and people giving up pipe smoking. But the real hardcore all-timers never gave up pipe smoking. The janitors, the plumbers, the farmers, and through all that, Corn on the Cob survived, man. I was so proud that of all the pipe, the corn cob was still ruling in America. You know, the images of MacArthur, there were still people that were alive from World War II. You know, that were exposed to that image. They were exposed to Bing Crosby, the image of a lot of 50s and 40s, and it was fresh in their mind. You know, you had the pictures of Oppenheimer, the developer of the atomic bomb. You know, it was there were still professors in Columbia University and NYU and a lot of the Ivy League schools that were still smoking cigars. I mean, pipes. You know, and you had the gangsters. Yeah, the gangsters. I had one friend, I want to mention his name, who went up the river. And he came in with his Vive pulled up. Nice car. Yeah, Eldorado. Eldorado. The real Eldorados. Comes in. He begins, back then they called them Goombas and they called them whatever. But I knew him from where I lived, the Belmont section of the Bronx. And he comes in, hey, Miggy. I said, hi, Carmen. Listen, I'm gonna do a stint. I'm going up the river, man. Can you guys send me cigars? I looked at him, how can I say no? How can I get my knees busted up, man? I just looked at him, big, heavy set guy. If he liked you, man. That was one scary dude. Well-dressed dude that worked for the mob. He worked for a couple of families. I don't want to tell you what he did. But I tell you what, when I stood next to him, he smelled of death. Smell of death. It was like they're standing next to the Reaper, man. To me, he was the nicest guy. He treated me with respect, even though I wasn't Italian, I wasn't Sicilian. The fact that he knew I knew about Italians. You know, I'd been around Italian. My grandmother ran with the Irish mob back in the days, selling numbers, and she was known. She had jazz club, 2 or 3 social places, and these Italians were the tenant. They knew her, and my grandma knew the cops, and so, you know, I was always felt protected coming up. And so Carmen asked me to send him cigars up there. So I said, fine. He paid a whole year's worth of monthly cigars. Hey, he must have threw down over $15,000 or something like that. I don't know. I didn't make the arrangement as far how much money he was going to spend, because he knew Don Melendi. He knew Lionel Melendi of De La Concha, you know, and he knew all the mobsters. He knew them all, man. You know, and at times they come, and he called me up to the office and to bring, you know, a certain amount of liquor and Chianti and vermouth. They were all up in there, man. And, you know, some of them guys were like really scary, you know, union guys, you know, working for the unions. They were smoking cigars. It was a whole big combination of sports, media, Hollywood, and the consistent regular cigar smoker that made it really, really happen. You know, the cigar booms. That was the beginning of it. I'll come back and put another video and then really get into the 90s. Say Piper Man, Piper the Sailor Man, putting this down so that others that come after me can realize it was New York that started the cigar boom and the pipe boom. Out.